Thank you, Christian. Thank you, everybody, for coming. My name is Ahmed El Tuni. I'm from New Jersey. I was supposed to be moderating this particular workshop along with Anita, but I'm sure a lot of you have heard the sad news this morning. So we all wish her the best. I'm sure she wishes she could be here, and probably right now as she's fighting, she's so passionate about this issue. She wants to make sure I don't mess it up. So um, I'm gonna try to do her proud. But what we're doing here, what our objective is we wanna try to bring all the caucuses together and create a space where we can discuss commonalities and intersectionality. And that's kind of what the diversity committee has always been about. Anita was supposed to be here to give a description about the history of the diversity committee. I'm probably going to do a much worse job about that, but I know that Anita founded the diversity committee, I think in the year 2000. And she's always been very passionate about turning the Green Party into a truly diverse community that reflects the diversity of our great Earth from all over the place, in terms of race, religion, gender, immigrant status, all of that. And I do know that to contact the diversity committee, you should email diversity@gp.org if you'd like to join it, get more involved. I'm not sure who the officers are right now, but if anybody knows that, you can actually feel free to say that right now. No? Okay. All right. So what we're doing here is, intersectionality. It's something that we really need to understand as a party on the left, as Greens, because one thing that we see happen all the time is I think someone's not muted right now. Any idea what that is? Okay. So one thing that we see happen all the time with the duopoly that we have in charge is there's a hierarchy that pegs us against one another as marginalized communities. I mean, one of the really good quotes that we heard during the plenary sessions that we've been having all weekend is, if you've come here to help me, you're wasting your time. But if you come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together, right? And the reason why that's so important is because, some folks are a bit higher up the totem pole than others. And sometimes they'll enjoy the hierarchy for that reason. Because, for example, I'm going to use myself, I have some privileges and I'm marginalized in other ways, but, it could be tempting at times to enjoy the system that we live in when it benefits me. So what we want to do is we want to bring all the caucuses together so that we understand it's our struggle collectively, and we need to uplift one another and defeat this system together. So that's why it's important that we have this discussion here, and I'm really excited to hear from all the caucus members. Our workshop is going to be divided up into two sections. First, we're going to have speakers from each caucus. They're going to talk a little bit about their caucus, the officers, how to get involved, when do they meet, social media, that sort of thing. Each one's going to have 3 minutes. We're going to go in alphabetical order. And then after that, we're going to have a bit more of an open discussion about how we could work together and the intersectionality. So without further ado, let's start with our first speaker, which would be from the Black Caucus, and that's Jasmine Phillips. Is she here? Jasmine? Okay, I guess we could come back to Jasmine when she gets onto the call. We'll move on to the Forming Disability Caucus. I know Dawn is here. Dawn, want to go ahead?
I'm part of the Green Party Disability Caucus. We're still forming, working on the bylaws, and we are definitely looking for new members. We have a Facebook page that you can join that will help us also to get a little bit more organized. And what we're trying to do is gather together all the Green Party members who have a disability or are allies of those with disabilities so that we can get this caucus formed and officially into becoming. We've got several people that have been working behind the scenes with this. Starlene Rankin, Cindy Norwitz, Cynthia Bryan Kate, and Chanel. And we would love any help that you would be willing to volunteer us in helping getting this organized and moved forward. We will be having the bylaws released hopefully by the end of July here. so that we can move forward with that next step. Over.
All right, thank you so much, Dawn. So just so people know, in order for a caucus to become accredited by GPUS, it needs 100 members across, I forgot how many states, but across quite a few states. So that's why it's really difficult to get these things formed, and that's why, you know, it's great that we're having this discussion right here at the plenary. So if anybody, you know, feels like they'd like to join the Disability Caucus, please reach out. Next, we're going to go to another forming caucus, the Elders Caucus, and that's Barbara Kidney. Barbara.
Yes, thank you so much, Ahmed, and best wishes to Anita, and thanks to Ahmed for stepping up, and thanks for the other representatives for being here and the participants. This is awesome. So greetings from the Lenape land, the people of the deer, just south of the Catskills, and the land also known as New York. I'm Barbara Kidney, representing the Elders Caucus, and I hope someday all of you will join us, because I wish you all long and thriving life as Greens. And that's what it takes to join. You just have to be green and have been on the planet for at least 55 years. To join or to find out more about us, because even if you're younger, you're very welcome to find out about us and talk to us. You can go to the website, Green Party Elders Caucus .wordpress.com. It's all smushed together. Green Party Elders Caucus.wordpress.com. If you go to the cheapest site, you'll find out a little bit about us, but you'll find out more at the site I just mentioned. And we do have a Facebook page also, and you know, some other things, but you can find about it there. So currently we have 104 members, yay, representing 30 states, which is more than the requisite 15, I believe. Plus the colony District of Columbia, they are also there. The caucus was crystallized in 2019, mainly by Dee Taylor of Utah and Jackie Deveneaux of Maine, and some other folks, including Harley Hart, who's also here representing women's. Current co-chairs are Dee Taylor and Jim Beckland of Michigan. I'm a listserv monitor along with Robin Lauren, who's also chair of Michigan Green Party. Annual business meeting is coming up this August 7th. We too are working on our bylaws and getting our act together for accreditation. If you go to our website, you can see some of our position papers, very well written. Some of the big topics we're working on affect everybody, like climate disaster, mitigating that, you know, saving the planet for future generations, universal healthcare, access for all, basic income guaranteed for all. You know, the good news is justice for one is often justice for all. I'd like to mention two things. One, intersectionality, and two, living history. So intersectionality, whatever demographic you are now, if you're not 55, when you become older, the mainstream culture is going to oppress you. Like it's okay, supposedly, to make fun of older people for allegedly being weak, and yet we're resented, supposedly, for being so strong and powerful. You know, you can't win for losing. So we're seeking to change these harmful stereotypes. Living history, oh my goodness, the founders of the party, some of them are with us. And in our caucus, John Resenbrink, Mike Feinstein, Jackie Deveneaux, just to name a handful. And, you know, we've been there, done that. Some of us have been at Kent State. I personally have known people born in the late 1800s. How about that? You know, my grandmother was persecuted for being German during World War I. She had to flee to Canada for safety. She was physically being attacked when she was a teenager, yet her older brothers were fighting on the American side. My dad found out about concentration camps by liberating one. Hello? So anyway, so we've been there, and I don't want to just talk about me, because, you know, many of us have had these experiences. We've been resisting and insisting and persisting since like the 1940s. We're still going strong, and we want you to come along and you know, and join us. And I'll just end by saying that I got to see back, I don't know when, 1970s maybe, on TV, this strange woman trying to form this strange party in Germany. And of course, I mean Petra Kelly, and of course, I mean our party now, the Green Party. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Barbara. That was great. And definitely we wish everybody on this call a chance to one day join the Elders Caucus in good health. Okay, next up we have another forming caucus, the Indigenous Caucus, but I don't believe we have a representative. They here or no? No, I don't think so. Okay, so we'll move on to the Latinx Caucus, and that's Manny Pentano. You here? Yep, there's Manny. Go ahead, Manny, you're on mute.
There you go. Okay. Hello, my name is Manny Pentano, and I was born in the United States, and I grew up in Buenos Aires during the turbulent 70s. I've been a member of the Green Party since 2015 and a proud member of the steering committee for the Latin Caucus since 2017. Also a member from the Pioneer Valley Green Rainbow Party chapter group in Massachusetts and a member of the diversity committee. The Latin Caucus has many blessings and responsibilities to the Latinx communities, and we unite, defend, empower, and discuss the main issues that affect our Latin communities in the United States, Latin countries, and other areas. We identify with immigration reform, indigenous tribes abuses in Latin countries, xenophobia, LGBTQ rights in Latin America, women's rights to choose in Mexico, Central, South America, and the United States, the liberation and Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, social, human, economic crisis in the Latino communities. Our present structure as we have is, first of all, I want to say, Anita Rios, we are sending you our prayers. So you get well and you come out and fight with us. So our present structure right now is Anita Rios, Jamie Rodriguez, and Willie Nogueras are the co-chairs. Lorraine Loriano, Hector Lopez, Richard Gomez, and myself, and our members at large. William Nogueras is our national chair delegate, and Jamie is our alternate. The Latin Caucus has been involved in many decisions and have sent letters to the Green Party regarding examples such as the abuses that migrants have received at the US border, including the separation and engaging of children, transgender abuse and deaths on young LGBTQ members in the United States and Puerto Rico. The Latinx Caucus Steering Committee stood in solidarity with Lavender and Black caucuses to defend the rights of transgender intersexual persons, overriding Georgia's Green's divisive ideology. We support the Latinx members who are running, representing the Green Party for positions in local elections in their states, the continued mental, physical, and monetary colonization of Puerto Rico by the United States empire, including the latest energy debacle, Luma. Also, we sent a letter with heard the decisions of the Texas judge, Andrew Hannon, about DACA legality. We stand with dreamers. Latin Caucus meets once a month on a Sunday between the hours of 7 and 9 or 10 p.m., depending on the agenda. Also, because we got our members who are on the West Coast. Members for the Latinx Caucus of the government of the GP United States is open to any Latinx person willing to work to the mission of the Latinx Caucus and who respects the Green Party US platform. Also, you can email to our Latinx member delegate, William Nogueras, at latinx@10.fairlist.net. We also have a Facebook page, which is Latin Caucus Green Party /Partido Verde, and you can like us. We all thank you for standing with the Latinx Caucus. Over.
Thank you, Manny. Awesome stuff. Okay, so next we're going to move on to the.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
Yes.
Oh.
I just realized.
I'm sorry.
This.
I didn't know I was able to do that. I was trying to unmute myself.
So thank you, Manny. We're going to move on to the Lavender Caucus. Cynthia Bryan Kate, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, the entire call dropped out a second ago. I'm glad it's back. Hi, everyone. I'm Cynthia Bryan Kate. Sorry I haven't been able to get the video sorted out. With my disability issues on visual disability, it always makes Zoom video hard. I'm here representing the Lavender lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual, and related sex and gender minorities caucus. Our website is lavendergreens.net. Basically, this caucus is for all people who are any of the giant bunch of catch-all stuff. As I said, LGBTQIA+ is how it's written out. People throughout the Green Party, all Greens who are in any way lavender. Let's see, our current officers, our co-chairs Margaret Elizabeth, our treasurer is Starlene Rankin, our secretary is Colin Bartlett, our delegates are Chanel Pittman, and Chanel could probably help me pronounce Amergan's last name a bit better than I've been able to.
Okay.
Let's see, we have a monthly meeting for the caucus. I believe it's still the fourth Thursday of each month. All the information for social media and other stuff should be on the website. And yeah, as I said, this represents lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, queer, asexual, and related people. I myself can say that my life falls over under whichever is included by several parts of this. I happen to be a transgender woman. I'm intersex. I'm on both the bisexual and asexual spectra, however you say that. And I'm going to say something about intersectionality even before we get to it. Because the Lavender Caucus, as many people know, has been on and is still on the forefront of advancing gender and sexuality rights throughout this party. And those rights are currently under threat from Green Party Georgia's current leaders and all of their as in the Green Party Georgia leaders, anti-transgender and anti-gender non-conforming actions and endorsements and platform amendments for their state threaten every single caucus here and every Green represented by every caucus here. Obviously, transgender people, because most of these things that Georgia has done have been with the declared aim of stripping transgender and gender nonconforming people of our rights. The Young Eco-Socialist Caucus, because many of Georgia's actions are targeting particularly transgender and gender nonconforming youth, to strip them of the right to even be transgender and gender nonconforming openly, to have access to medical care, to have access to sports, to have access to affirming schools. This affects the Women's Caucus, of which I'm also a member, because these maneuvers are designed to attack the rights of transgender women, such as myself, and strip us of our very right to womanhood. It impacts the Black, Latinx, and Indigenous caucuses because every year we sadly have to have Transgender Day of Remembrance to commemorate and memorialize people who've been murdered in hate crimes throughout the year around the world. And sadly, there is a disproportionality of most of the names that you will hear will be from the Black community, from the Latinx community. And in the last few years, there have been some more cases coming out of Indigenous, transgender, nonconforming, particularly Two-Spirit people being murdered. The Elders Caucus is impacted because, well, there's no age limit on people being discriminated against by these kind of maneuvers. And as a disabled person who's part of the Forming Disability Caucus, I can say that this is also designed to drive wedges between all the diversities and make it clear you can be your diversity, but not your diversity and trans or gender nonconforming. So if Georgia's leaders had their way, I'd have to choose between being legally blind and being trans. None of this is ethical. None of this is fair. None of this is green. And as an alternate delegate, I've been urging every delegate and alt delegate to vote yes on, I believe it's 1062, the coming vote to discredit the current Georgia party, so we can have a party in that state that is no longer attacking everybody here. Over.
Thank you so much for that, Cynthia. And I think you did touch on a little bit of the intersectionality that we plan on talking about in the second part of this workshop. So thank you for getting that started. Next, we're going to go to the Women's Caucus. Holly Hart, go ahead.
Okay. Thanks. I'm going to put my I just put the Facebook page here. We have a website that's being worked on. I'm putting that here for anyone who wants to check us out. which we've been using most of that, mostly more than our website. So the National Women's Caucus, founded, I think, in 2005, and in our mission statement, we will organize and act to advance women's rights and concerns within the party and the country at large, with ultimate goals of maximizing the women's vote for the Green Party, particular participation of women at all levels of the party, and voter, activist, leadership, candidate, and office holder base of women that is reflective of the great diversity of the nation. Our officers currently are co-chairs Ann Link and Dee Taylor. Monica James was a spokesperson and recently stepped down, but so that office is open, but she was fulfilling that role quite actively. Secretary is Dawn Marie Cronin. Starlene Rankin is our treasurer. Our delegates to the National Committee are Tama Yeager and Sand Everett, and our alternate is Cynthia Bryan Kate. If I didn't mention it, I guess I didn't beforehand, but we are open to women only. We don't have an allies branch, but we're open to women only. That does include all women, including trans women. That is not a question. I do want to just go over some of our recent activities. We're open to women, and what we've done basically hinges on members' interests and activities. Sometimes there's not a lot of activity, sometimes there's more. Currently, there's a coordinators group that has been meeting on a monthly basis. At times when there's been a lot more interest, it's been open to all members, or there have been different projects and subcommittees. Recently, we've had members who are able to support showing of films. We showed Push Out, Coded Bias, Sisters Rising, which is about disappearing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, Iron Jawed Angels, a criminalization of Black girls, and that's Push Out, criminalization of Black girls in schools. We also made a number of statements, a National Women's Caucus addressing systemic racism against Black women and girls in the areas of policing, criminal justice, and education, because Monica likes long sentences. We also endorsed the Trans Day of Remembrance and hosted a webinar featuring some educational speakers on the subject. We also made a statement in support of Palestinian families and I just read that. We've also developed a bibliography of seminal eco-feminist literature and books. Some of them are major staples like The Feminine Mystique and things that you might run into anywhere, but others were some Green Party writers, works by people like Petra Kelly. Yes, we have women of color, we have Latinx women, and of course that's growing and ever expanding. So we have that on our website, and I believe linked on our Facebook page. Some very interesting works of all kinds. We've also hosted workshops, media tips for women candidates, and one called the F Word, Feminism 101. And I provided some funding for green women candidates at times when we've had it. Also, and we haven't done this recently, but there's a thing we can do with an endorsement committee. Anybody on the caucus can be on this, and we set up a Q&A with green women candidates running for office. And then we decide to endorse them. We vote to do that. We've never not endorsed anybody, but then we put that list on our website and Facebook, and then they can use that endorsement as just a little plug. I think there was more than that. If anybody wants to join, I'm going to put you can write to this address, and that will get to one of us. I keep thinking, I know there's stuff I left out, but I think that's pretty much what we've been doing. Just want to mention, we are actually not the minority, we are the majority. And even the most privileged of us, and this is where you really get a very strange, I have been convinced that women do generally think differently, whether it's nature or nurture, but I'm not an essentialist, but there are some real differences in the Women's Caucus, and I think the broader voice is very important. Just in the fact that it may bring a different set of eyes or a different way of thinking to look at various issues. But even the most privileged, Karen, has some issue. So I just want to say, recently we had a spate of videos about Karens like lashing out in grocery stores and stuff. Those videos were always very well produced, don't you think? Unless, most of them I think were just setups, and they may have been entertaining for people, but I'll warn you what I've seen. Yes, women of color and minority women and poor women have like double or triple jeopardy. But what I've noticed is when the rug goes for white privileged women, it's 10 times faster. Once they take us out, every other woman goes down faster. So I want to or gets attacked faster. And this is based on feedback that we've heard, within the Women's Caucus and Black members and Latinx members who have noticed this. So I want to point out that, I think in our group, we really have, we want to make an effort to be as inclusive and strong as possible. And we welcome actually the support we've gotten from a couple other caucuses, and hope that continues. If anybody wants to talk more later, my contact info, you can write that actual email address and check us out on Facebook.
All right, thanks, Holly. That was great. I love how broad the work that you're doing is. It's very intersectional. So much love to the Women's Caucus. Moving on, we're going to go to the Young Eco-Socialist, Chanel Pittman. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. I'm not turning on video right now because I'm technically not decent, but we're going to continue because I look decent on the photo. Hi, my name is Chanel Pittman, and I'm here represent as one of the officers of the Young Eco-Socialist. That is the Green Party of the United States Youth Caucus. I am the Accreditation and Outreach Co-Chair. I'm among four other co-chairs and two overall co-chairs. Our current leadership is as follows. Our co-chairs are Cassidy Moriarty of Indiana and Damian Gonzalez, formerly of Colorado, now California. As I said before, I'm the Accreditation and Outreach co-chair. Our media co-chair is Cody Hanna out of Arizona. Our treasurer stepped down recently, but it was Travis Crystal out of Texas. And we weren't able to fulfill the education co-chair role because people didn't run fast enough and there was no quorum on that vote, which sucks because the Education Committee is the most important aspect of the Young Eco-Socialist Caucus. We were founded, our birthday actually popped up recently, July 13th, 2012. The caucus is 9 years old. The age range for this caucus is between 13 and 35. I don't want to hear the laughter at the 35 thing. At the time of our founding, that was when youth things stopped. Things have changed since 2012, but that change has to come from a bylaws change, which requires the entire caucus to vote to change that. Currently, the caucus has about 200 members that are current on their dues, but we're a dues-based caucus. So in this caucus, members pay $10 a year to have full participation because we have things that cost money that our caucus does that helps us organize. For instance, where some caucuses have Facebook pages or websites and Facebook pages in other spaces, we have a whole work from home ecosystem called Basecamp that we use, and that costs us $1,000 a year. We also have whole stored educational calls and videos that we do. We have to have this stuff stored in a cloud and then edited and put that stuff out again on a YouTube channel. So these are all things that require us to have, software to get certain things done. So we have expenses. So we have dues. And I found as the Accreditation Outreach Co-Chair, the first team of people that talks to our new members, they find, at least in my experience, that little $10 a year donation dues that they do provides them a sense of investment in this thing that they're building, which is kind of how I pitch it. The change of name of our caucus from Young Greens to Young Eco-Socialists happened in 2017. And I just think it's a really good branding thing, but we can talk about that later because, yes, Greens, it's a positive thing for me. But this caucus is actually trying very hard to do really big things. We've recently accredited 3 more states officially because we have our own accreditation process. We recently accredited New Jersey, finally, Arizona, and Pennsylvania needs to just tell us when they want accreditation because Pennsylvania is over here just doing amazing stuff with, block the bomb and everything else. I found in looking at it, we've got a lot of young leaders running state parties, existing as state party treasurers, existing as state party secretaries and co-chairs. Because what we do in this caucus, or at least what we try to do, is help new Greens get their help new Greens get their sense of how the party works, but also more importantly, learn the skills necessary to be of service to the rest of the Green Party. In the last couple of years, we've done a couple of things that we're super proud of. One, we became a solidarity organization with the Black Alliance for Peace. We have multiple pieces of writing from our members posted to our website because they are really good journalists over in the Young Eco-Socialists. There's actually about 16 more articles being posted to the website in the next couple of days. It's just a matter of editing. We have a Twitter, we have a TikTok. Every social media for us is GPUSU. And then we've been getting a lot of stuff done. We have sponsored whole resolutions to have our party endorse federal legislation. We have sponsored, we've sponsored several different petitions to go to the EPA from the Young Eco-Socialists because we found it necessary and brought that stuff to the National Committee. And there's a lot more stuff that we're going to be bringing because for me and for a lot of us, we know that it's really necessary for people to understand that the platform that we have has this legislative component that we're always working on because we're activists and we never actually stop doing that work. And if we connect those things together so that people understand what's going on, it's easier for everyone to see what the Green Party is about. And because we advocate for young people, I have to say, it's a little bit frustrating that, we can't start something in slightly younger spaces because we organize online. Whereas other caucuses might have phone call meetings because we have our work from home ecosystem and base camp, we kind of all meet there consistently talking all the time. We have our yearly meeting at the annual national meeting when it's in person, but we don't actually have a tendency to have that coming together calls unless there's a big something happening and we're working on getting that back together, but we got to get people talking correctly so we know when people have time. It's exciting to see what people are doing, and I'm really proud of everyone in our caucus right now. If I actually took the time to list off all the things, we'd be here for 2 hours because every day I'm shocked. Some of our candidates who we've endorsed for certain runs like mayor have actually won. And some of our candidates that we endorsed actually did so well in their races that they got work with the city commissions as 27-year-olds. So I'm super proud of seeing what we can do in the future as young Greens so that when we get to be older Greens, those crazy, those slightly off people in the assisted living facilities have all these fun stories of activism and saving the planet. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good introduction.
Awesome stuff, Chanel. Great work from the Yes Caucus. All right, so I'm gonna go back to the Black Caucus now. I'm not sure, is Jasmine Phillips on the call yet? Jasmine, you here? All right. If anyone from the Black Caucus, I think I saw Robin Harris here. Robin, do you wanna talk about the Black Caucus real quick, or I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if you can, or anybody else, any Black Caucus members here? Felita, there you go. Felita, go ahead.
All right. I wasn't planning this. I'm Felina Farley. I'm the treasurer of the Black Caucus. I've been a member since 2016, and Dee posted the links in the chat. We also have a Twitter page as well. I'll post that in the chat. We have we use Flock, which is to me a green version of Slack or Discord or something. It's green themed, I would say. And that's what we use for our internal communications and channels and organizing. We have our monthly meeting is tomorrow. It's usually today, but we pushed it to tomorrow. So it's usually the third Sunday of the month, starting at 6 o'clock Eastern time. We were thinking about pushing it a little later for Pacific, but we haven't come up to a time yet. But right now it's 6 o'clock Sundays. And let's see, we do have a candidate questionnaire that we're working on. I just started putting the website together, so it's still a work in progress, but it has our pictures on it for everyone that's on the executive committee. Daryl Mock is the co-chair and Treharn Cruz. Robin is the parliamentarian, Dee Murphy's the secretary. Again, I'm the treasurer. Monica James is our delegate. Treharn is also our delegate, and James Lane is our alternate. And I think the last thing we did was submit the proposal for the No New Jails endorsement. And thank you everyone for that passing. Pretty much not a problem except for some people that are no longer with on the national delegation, I think. So it did help expose some questionable characters when it was pretty much a no-brainer when it comes to our platform and what was already there. So endorsing no new jails being built in this country, which we have 6 on the schedule this year that are being built, and 7 more courthouses. And we're trying to reduce our prison population, and we got new jails being thrown up across the country. So right now I'm working on there's an international women's group that also wants to focus on more action on the ground for these new jails that are being thrown up in the United States. So I think
All right. Awesome stuff, Alina. Thank you so much. Way to step up on the spot like that. Really, really good work. All right, so I think we've heard from all of our caucuses right now. What we want to do, like in this next part of the workshop, is we want to discuss 2 main questions between all the caucus representatives. And Felina, you could pop in on this too, since you're now officially the Black Caucus rep. How does our work intersect, and how can we best work together between caucuses? So there's no particular order here. If anybody wants to go first, just raise your hand or say stack, and we'll hear what everyone has to say. And then after that, I'm sorry, Cynthia.
I'm calling stack, Cynthia.
Okay, so we'll start with Cynthia, but after we hear from all of our reps, we're going to open it up to the audience, and you'll be able to participate. So let's just start off with Cynthia. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Besides what I already said, there's a point that I should have mentioned before, and this actually, I feel, unites both the Lavender and Women's Caucuses, besides what we already said about trans women being open to being on both, both being open to trans women. All the stuff that's coming out from the current leaders of the Georgia Green Party isn't just about targeting trans women. It's actually about targeting all women who don't fit a very, very narrow definition of womanhood, because the most recent thing that's come out in the last week or 2 is that these same Georgia leaders are putting another piece into their hideous state platform, which actually wants to have surrogacy and certain other alternative paths to motherhood banned, and that's attacking any woman who can't be a mother by what they consider the only means that they consider, which is the whole cisgender heterosexual path. Anyone else, even cisgender heterosexual women who are in any way infertile or have any issues with fertility, are being attacked just the same as trans women like me. And I sincerely hope that this unites every woman in this party who's a delegate or alt delegate to say, we're not playing this. Over.
No, absolutely, Cynthia. And I mean, I think you make a great point in that everyone I've spoken to, at least on this issue, every woman that I've spoken to on this issue has told me I have no problem at all with trans women. So it is very interesting that this is all rhetoric coming from the privileged gender about this. I'm gonna go to I think Manny was first, and then Chanel was after that. So Manny, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, man. Uh, Thank you, Melina, for stepping up. That's what this party is all about. We have to step up, and when we come out, we step up. So kudos to you. Um, Two things. The first one is how do we stick together? The reason why we need to stick together is because when I was growing up, and when we all were growing up, we were always told that there was only the two-party system, the Democrats and the Republicans. And there's no ranchers voting or anything like that. So everybody was either one or the other. And they never pay attention to the Green Party until 1998, we were native. But the problem is that we have to work together because this is the only way that we can get candidates that can really be taken seriously into major positions like state representatives and senators. I've been telling many times for the last past year when I've been in, with the advisory committee and other committees, I've been saying we need to get somebody to replace Josh Hawley in Missouri. We need to replace somebody in Taylor Greene in Georgia. But that's the reason why all the caucuses need to come together, especially the Lavender Caucus and the Black Caucus and the Indigenous Caucus, because we are all part of one. We are all part of one party, and we need to be together. And being together is the only way we're going to be able to defeat fascism, neo-fascism, neoliberalism, and any other ism out there. The second question I want to is, how can we best together? And I'm so glad that from the Lavender Caucus mentioned this. Even what not happened with Georgia, we need to educate. Educate is the critical point of all our caucuses. We need to educate our members. We need to educate our children from our members. We need to let them know everything that has happened in the United States that kept us when we were children from knowing. And now this education, the United States is, all only for the prolific and for the 1%. We need to let them know about Wounded Knee. We need to let them know about what happened in Tulsa. We need to let them know about segregation. We need to know about redlining. And what's important, we need to let them know about what is LGBTQ, the differences, how people are binary, how people are asexual, how people are transgender. This is important. But if we don't educate ourselves, then there is no chance for us to move on. So I'm sorry that I had to bring this, but I've been asking for the Georgia party to please take the class that I took, which was sexuality, sex, and gender. And there were many things that you will understand, and you will get the point that why is that people are born in some ways, and why we can, as a party, we can be sidelining people. And the last thing that I want to bring in is how can we best together is by doing this. I mean, we're doing right now the A&M, but we can also get together and put caucuses together and talk about what is out there. What is that you are working on? What is that we are working on? We're supposed to be working with the Latinx and Black Caucus, and I would love to have that relationship with Alina and everything that you're doing, and how that is going to intersectional with what we're doing and what was going to happen with the Women Caucus and what's happening with the Lavender Caucus. Because what is about our party is that in the 10 key values, there's only one value for me, and that's humanity. Over.
All All right, so I just want to say, Dee, Alan, and Jeff, I see you guys, but we're starting with the panelists first, and then we're gonna open it up to the audience afterward. So if I don't call on you right away, just wait till we're done with the caucus representatives. From there, I got Chanel, and then Barbara, and then Felina. So go ahead, Chanel.
Okay, so I just want to say, like, one of the major reasons that we kind of have to intersect and that we do is because everything that's happening before, we're facing the brunt of why, the consequences of why are faced by the young people. In the same way that, like, the environmental destruction that accidentally occurred on the part of like some really, really fossil fuel minded boomers, we're facing the consequences of that. The Youth Caucus tries its hardest to make a point to draw information and knowledge from every place that we can. Our educational calls throughout the whole caucus have been calls that were scheduled with like green thought leaders and environmental and healthcare thought leaders such as Dr. Flowers and Dr. Baraka. And I think we had a call with Kelly Akuno one time since I've been here. The issues that we're facing as a party, as a country, all affect every last one of us. I mean, the Youth Caucus in particular is a very intersectional space because we have to be. Our entire steering committee at the current moment is mostly non-straight people. So there's mostly non-straight, mostly disabled people. So there's that constant intersectionality that we have to navigate. Our caucus has members that have various conditions that would in other spaces make it difficult for them to work. But because we're like younger and understand that everyone is a little bit different, we can take the time to have those arguments and then come back to the reason we were disagreeing and figure out what the main issue was. It's kind of difficult when a bunch of millennials and Gen Z get into a disagreement. I recall one time I brought up the Olympics because, you know me, I think the Olympics should not exist. And the Midwest was like, wait a minute, sports is good, actually. And I was like, but the International Olympics Committee is not. And it caused like a really long discussion where we started to explain whether or not sports were ethical as we were seeing it. But things like that, it's kind of like how you don't notice how gentrification affects other things like food until you all come together and try to talk from all the different angles of it. That's why I tried to set up a way that allows us to have like liaisons when we have members in other caucuses to tell us if there's anything that we need to be working on with other caucuses for. Everything that we're doing as a party is like a whole system that if it works together will save the planet and our lives. So it requires us to kind of have that shared knowledge so that we know how to approach the different complexities of a given community that is, you know, serviced by and for Greens and everyone else. I'm pretty sure that didn't make sense. I apologize.
Awesome, Chanel. Thank you. Okay, I had Barbara Kidney next, and then Felina, and then Holly. So go ahead, Barbara.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks to everybody who spoke and made these great points. So I have a number of points about intersectionality. Let's see. Yeah, we need to do more of this. I think these conversations we're having with representatives from all the caucuses is a great thing. And maybe as a party, we can explore how to do that, just to create webs between the caucuses. In terms of Elders Caucus, obviously, it's a rainbow group. The only criteria is the age criteria. So having said that, I think it would really behoove us to have a bridge, to have a special connection with the Yes Caucus, to work together and to share the perspectives. You know, we kind of represent the past and the present and a little bit into the future. And you folks represent a little bit of the past, the present, and, you know, way into the future. We ought to get together, right? I also think it would be good to have like a sandwich generation caucus for the middle-aged people. You know, that's a special thing, a special way of oppression that happens, you know, trying to make it in capitalist land, the job, the family, the house, you know, the whatever. Yeah, so, okay, other thoughts. Personal experience in the Elders Caucus. I volunteered to be the listserv monitor way back, you know, well, meaning like more than a year ago. And I said to myself, what an easy job. I'll be listserv monitoring for Greens, you know, nice people, friendly people, reasonable people. And that's what I thought at the time. And yeah, and it became, you know, quite the job, because what happened was that a number of people joined who were of the agenda to be anti-trans, and they were really pushing the anti-trans agenda very vociferously. And so myself and then Robin Lorraine, who joined me, you know, we had to like person the barricades against the transphobia. And we were kind of there when the dialogue, not expulsion caucus was attempting to form, which to me is a misnomer. It's mainly a monologue caucus, not a dialogue. But anyway, so yeah, we went through that experience, just saying. I also, I just want to mention one thing that Chanel brought up, and if I may make like a gentle, I don't know what, like a gentle addition, because the mention was made of the boomers bringing us, the fossil fuel thing. And I just want to point out that, we're not the Koch brothers, and the Koch brothers actually predate the boomers. And furthermore, many of my generation were involved with the greening of America, the environmental movement, Rachel Carson saying no to DDT, starting organics, yada, yada, yada. When I was a college kid, we were taught that that maybe someday in the far future, it could be so that the release of carbon dioxide that the industrial world is putting out could create a problem. It could be like a greenhouse effect, maybe. And we were all thinking, in all honesty, like, 100 years, maybe in 2070, that might happen. And I was also thinking, well, if that started to happen, surely the world would have sense enough to stop it. Like, it never occurred to me that people would be so freaking stupid to politicize this for money, because you can't eat money, you can't breathe money, you can't drink money, etc. I'm preaching to the choir, excuse me. But I want everybody to know that many of us were there and are still there, have been there, all throughout, from the 40s all the way across the span, fighting for the planet and for peace and people. Transsectionality, intersectionality. I just want to mention, when Occupy was alive and well and booming, had a wonderful experience of being in some assemblies at mini Occupies. And what was happening was that people from the different demographic boxes were speaking to each other. And that was made note of. And one of the people to make note of it was Green Party member Jason West, mayor of New Paltz, who took on the task of marrying gay people, risking going to prison for that. So he's one of the people at the assembly, but many people were there, and all shapes, sizes, colors, whatever. The only commonality was, there were no like oppressive conservative Republican types, but people who usually don't speak to each other because they're different colors, different shapes, sizes, ages were, and we were all celebrating that. So that was really intersectional, and that was really egalitarian, and that was really good. And I'd like to see more of that in this party. Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Barbara. Great stuff. Great commentary. I think we have Holly next. And Jackie, I see you. I'm going to add you to the stack with the audience. Go ahead, Holly.
I think I was.
Holly, you should unmute. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to, yeah. So thank you. I don't know if I can probably just repeat what many of others said. I did want to mention, I think the thing about the Women's Caucus is we have somebody in every other demographic. So, and one thing I think we have striven to from the start to try to be open and inclusive and include voices that have been more marginalized. Some women are more marginalized than others. So we welcome more more interest. I know a lot of women, maybe in the Black Caucus or Latinx Caucus and so on, and just don't have time for everything, and we understand that. But there's always room for interaction. I think we've had some good work with the Black Caucus. Not sure what else. I know the Black Caucus and one or two others that there were some collaborative efforts on some policy and such. And so I'm hoping to see more of that. Wanted to add just one more thing, which has been a really eye opener. Thanks to Jackie Devino, we had some connection with the Global Green Women's Group. They've had conference calls, and it's interesting to listen to women in other countries who are actually parts of parliaments, office holders. This has been an extremely educational opportunity. And I'm hoping if this continues or if there are recordings, we can make this available to others, because I think anybody, especially of any demographic in the Green Party, would find this of value. Over.
Thank you, Holly. Felina, I'm so sorry I skipped over you, sister. I was looking at the original list of the panelists, so go ahead, Felina.
Yeah, well, we try to start right at the beginning of the pandemic issue back in January or December. Kathy Woodward tried to form a caucus coalition, and the only thing I was suggesting is that we're supposed to have caucus members on the diversity committee, and maybe within that diversity committee, the caucus members can form a working group, and because it's in the bylaws of the diversity committee. But well, Darlene is also no longer with the Green Party either, and nor is Kathy, but I just feel like I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to the idea of a caucus working group within the diversity committee. Because if we have 3 caucus members on the diversity committee and they're working subgroup, then that should be that inner working that we need as caucuses within diversity committee. I just didn't want to make it like I was being difficult, but Anita was saying that the diversity committee was the problem. So I'm not sure what's going on with that because I'm not on the diversity committee. So, but that would be the place to do it. So I just thought that I'd bring that up. Thanks.
No, thanks, Felina. That is a great idea to have a working group within the diversity committee, because I know you don't have to be a caucus member to be on the diversity committee. So I think somebody earlier was asking if there was an ally section for these caucuses, but you want to be an ally, that's the place to go. The diversity committee is open to all GPUS members to join. So, but yeah, like definitely it would be a good place for a working group. But, you know, like Barbara said, you know, just forming a network amongst ourselves and having discussions like what we're having here. It doesn't have to be during the A&M, but to work across caucuses with the members of those caucuses that we know. Okay, so
response?
I'm sorry, Manny?
The right response?
Yeah, go ahead.
Lina, I'm a member of the diversity committee, so thank you, because I will bring this. I will bring this to our next meeting, and because what you just said, it's just exactly what you know what is needed, because having a coalition is more. A diversity committee works in a lot of other occasions, but a coalition with all the caucuses is exactly what I need. So I think thank you. And Felina, I will bring this to the diversity committee.
Okay.
Awesome stuff, Manny. Thank you. Yeah, so we just have one more panelist, Dawn. You didn't raise your hand. I don't know if you want to speak or not. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I will give you an opportunity here before I open it up to the audience if you have anything you want to share.
There was just so many other perspectives and points. I was just kind of sort of waiting. Intersectionality is that we're all connected. We're all greens. We're all working for the same points. And the more that we can work together, the better. And that's pretty much where I'll leave it, because we can work together. We know we have these common areas that we are all focusing on together. Let's just find a way and a forum that is easy for us all to communicate on. Over.
All right, thank you so much, Dawn. Chanel and Felina, are your hands up from the last time, or are they up for a second time? I'm not sure.
Nope, I just have something else to say.
Okay. All right. So we're going to open it up to the audience now. I already have folks on stack. I think Dee was first, then Alan, Jeff, Therese, and Becky, and I'm going to put Lena. Sorry, I'm going to put Chanel in there too. We're doing pretty good with time, so I'm not gonna put a time limit on any of this. But just do be courteous for the line behind you. So let's start with Dee. Go ahead.
D. Murphy or D. Taylor?
D. Murphy, go ahead.
Okay, hi everyone. Well, I have some input on some questions regarding how the caucuses can work together and retention. And then I have a question for the panelists. I believe that the caucuses can work together by respecting one another's space. I feel that there's room at the table for all of us. No one has to be bumped to make space for someone else. So if we want to make, people to accept us, from our different demographics, we have to be willing to accept others, so long as they're willing to listen. Sometimes education needs to be had, but I don't believe that dismissing and throwing people out is okay. This falls into the category or the arena of cultural competency. It works both ways. Instead of certain groups stereotyping, pigeonholing, and excluding others, find out what we have in common. We can agree to disagree, but stalking is not okay. So when we go after someone, we call them a Karen, for instance, which was reflected by some members of the Women's Caucus. Find out what it is they have to offer. Find out if they have information, education. What can we do to work together? If you feel that they're reflecting Karen-like views or whatever, maybe point it out. But this is a team. We're supposed to be on one page together. Same way with, members of the Black Caucus, members of the Youth Caucus, members of the, Latinx. I mean, generally, I don't see a lot of, so I'm not a national, but I don't see a lot of issues with exclusion. I do see some of the other demographics, some of the other caucuses that are willing to say, well, that person's a Karen, don't listen to them. They don't have any value. And we can't just dismiss members. Everyone has something to offer, no matter what, agenda they're coming from. So that was my little speech there, but I had a question for the Elder Caucus and specifically Holly Hart. I'm wondering when the Elder Caucus was conceived. I remember initiating discussions with you and Jackie and Dee in 2018 due to my studies in gerontology at the time. And I'm really happy to see it gelling and taking off, and that's amazing. I'm wondering, when the Elder Caucus actually originated. Over.
That's a good question, because I'm not totally sure, and I think Barbara's newer and Jackie may know. I know that there had been talks about it actually for quite a while, off and on. But most recently, I think it was D. Taylor. Was it Jackie's nodding? It was D. Taylor, I think, that said, let's put this together. And so anybody that, and I think when you say when was it conceived, I started laughing as both an elder and a woman. You can guess why that, because most of us are beyond the age of, anyway. We this got put together and we've been working on bylaws and in basic stuff and some very good position papers. But it's just been, what is it, a couple of years. It hasn't been, or even that long. But it's
Holly, look in the chat.
Oh, okay.
You just wrote.
I didn't. What? Just say it.
Fall 2018.
Fall 2018.
After the discussion with DM and Jackie.
Okay. Yeah, so they were really instrumental in this. If you are, and we had decided, because we had a person at the time who was 55 years old, so we decided to grandparent that person in. There's been some discussion about raising that. I have to say, there's been some extreme lack of awareness of elder issues and what's in situations. So I think I personally was glad to be included in the group and think there's some very good work being done. The trans issue, I just wanted to put in here. It's interesting that this group, I believe, was targeted. It was very clearly planned and targeted as a group that a handful of people figured would be susceptible to this. And I think actually the only people susceptible were the people who were involved in the attack. I don't think the rest of us bought it, because I think they were banking on people who would be coming out of a certain era of feminism where there was a legitimate concern about women's safety and issues, and they could very easily be fooled. But it didn't really work. But it was a real shocking pain in the neck. The group then moved to the Women's Caucus, and we have a bylaw that allows us to shut people up faster for stuff like that. So anyway, sorry to run on, but to answer your question, fall of 2018, and I think there are enough members right now to go forward for applying for accreditation. If you're, I would say safely 60 or older, you're welcome to join. Jackie or Dee may be able to supply more information.
Thanks, Holly. I think Chanel wanted to say something as a panelist, so I'm gonna go to her before I go to Ellen. Go ahead,
Oh, no,
Chanel.
it's okay. You can, I'll wait until other people talk. I had a
Okay,
comment.
so this was like an audience thing? Okay, cool. All right, Alan Hunter, go ahead.
Hi, I suppose I qualify as one of the susceptible ones. I know it was possible for a gender critical radical feminist perspective to be included and embraced without it being at the cost of transgender women's identity. And to that end, I feel like I bent over backwards to really hear the Georgia Greens out. I participated in that dialogue, not expulsion group. And then I reached out directly to the Georgia Greens and encountered a sea of deliberate misgendering, dismissive attitudes, a complete lack of interest on their part in listening to any perspective that didn't match their own or explaining their own in any way to be understood by people whose opinion they didn't care for. So I feel like the Georgia Greens have earned the label that's been applied to them, and it couldn't happen to more deserving folks. I would like this opportunity to come out in the political sense, since so many people may be wondering why I bothered giving them so much of the time of day to begin with. I speak as a genderqueer person within the LGBTQIA+ community, as a person who largely swims as a minority in a sea of more conventional transgender voices. Even terms like non-binary are generally defined in ways that don't reflect my experience. Transgender is generally functioning as an umbrella term that anybody whose gender identity differs from what they were assumed at birth qualifies as transgender. And yet an umbrella can make you feel like you are covered, like you're protected from the weather, but it can also make you feel covered in the sense of being covered up. I want to read an excerpt from something that happened in a support group, an online support group, where many of my posts had been flagged as problematic. The administrator wrote to me, "I'm put in a bit of a predicament as an administrator. People expect their thoughts to be bounced back and reinforced as in any other facet of social media, but you see things differently than others do. I can't even say I disagree with you after reading some of your posts. The biggest thing I see here is that people aren't expecting it. People want an echo, not a controversy. They want to feel like it's a safe space, but their notion of a safe space is one that reflects themselves. So someone comes along with a thought that doesn't fit and they react negatively as if their safe space had been compromised. Your posts are thought-provoking. You're begging for conversation in the way you write. When this group was founded years ago, I think your ideology and style would have been embraced and challenged and considered and refuted. However, as it stands, people don't want to have a conversation anymore if it doesn't stand to reinforce their own behavior and thoughts. We have become a group that values selfies of transgender people asking if they pass, or stories about abuse and trauma, or questions about hormone shot placement. I don't think there's anything wrong with what you're doing, but I definitely think this is the wrong audience to get the reactions I think you would like. I simply feel people don't want to talk because they don't feel like analyzing anything anymore. Because of my placement as someone outside of a more conventional transgender identity, throughout my life, I've gotten more of my validation from radical feminism than from the LGBTQIA community. I think intersectionality has to mean being aware of how complex the interaction of privilege and marginalization can be, and that we need to recommit constantly to listen and learn. But I'm proud to identify as a radical feminist, but I'm also proud to embrace my transgender sisters and brothers as colleagues, and I never meant to step on your shoes. Over.
Thank you so
Cynthia,
much
quick
for sharing
feedback,
that.
if I might.
Go ahead, Cynthia, go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to say something about the whole idea of gender critical feminists. The problem is that the transgender exclusionists in the feminist community, I don't feel they even fit feminism to say that they get to define a narrow definition of who gets to be a woman. Problem is that there's a difference between criticizing an oppressive gender system that tyrannizes people and says you have to act this way because of what the doctor saw between your legs when you were like 3 minutes old, and people who are actively trying to, quote, criticize, you can't see my air quotes, and debate and debunk and tear apart lives of women like me because they want to basically have somebody to be a scapegoat. So that's why the Georgia Green Party and all the people that they are in cahoots with, I don't count them as feminists. I don't use that whole TERF acronym because I don't believe that those people are radical or feminist. Radical would mean they were trying to get to the root of what's wrong with the gender system, and feminist would mean that they believe in the womanhood of somebody based on their experience of themselves as a woman, not based on ovaries or uteri and such. So every time I hear gender critical, my hackles rise like a hedgehog because no, these people are the only thing they want to criticize is my right to life and that of my sisters, which I think, as I said, intersectionally puts so many of every other population at risk. And I will say that every time there's a Transgender Day of Remembrance, there are even cisgender people who get murdered because some hater creep decided to kill them because their gender expression didn't fit the same stereotypes. Over.
Thanks, Cynthia. Those are great points. Thank you so much for sharing that. I do just want to let people know that we have a lot of questions and information in the chat. So if you could go in there, there's a lot of good material and links. And if you could answer some of the questions in there, because I can't really multitask so well. So if anyone knows the answers to the questions being asked, please go ahead.
Direct response, please. Direct
ahead,
response,
Barbara.
please. Thank you, and excuse me for jumping the line, but briefly, I just want to make a direct response to points that the last three speakers were making, and which is just anecdotal experience from my experience. To me, it makes absolutely no sense to say you're a radical feminist and to be anti-trans. And in my experience as being, part of the Gloria Steinem generation back in the 70s and 80s, we were always extremely receptive, to the non-cis community. And it would be horrific to think of excluding, homosexual people or queer people or transgender people. It would just be horrific. And it doesn't make any sense. So I'm just saying, thank you.
All right, thank you, Barbara. Who I have on stack is Jeff Cherise, Jackie, Chanel, Gil, Deborah, Camila, then Randy. So I didn't say your name. Put your hand up. Jeff Perez, go ahead.
Yeah, two questions. One is, since we're discussing intersectionality, would it be possible that maybe the caucuses all the caucuses get together and forming caucuses get together and discuss everything, and then come up with a, later on another meeting. And my second question is the forming of caucuses. Some caucuses, I know you have to have 100 members in all the states or something like that. Is that how that works? 20 states or 15 states? And yet, so how do you get more members, or what if it's declining then? What can we do to increase and recruit more people over now?
Who are you directing that to, Jeff?
I'm directing the first question to all the caucuses. How, if you can get together and, have a meeting sometime separate from this to discuss everything, and then come back to the next national meeting to see if we can come up with something or what was discussed. And the other one was to, in general, all the other caucuses that may have problems. How can you address it if you have either declining membership, or if you can't get 15 people to come to a meeting, even on a conference call or Zoom call?
Okay, do any of the panelists want to answer that first question?
Manny.
Go ahead, Manny.
Thank you. Okay, so your first question will be like we spoke before. It's a great. We definitely would like to, have a caucus. What we call it a caucus coalition. But like I said, the main thing will be is to ask the diversity committee first. If there's a chance for us to go off the, because there's all the bylaws and many other, that we come into it. But we'll definitely try it. So yes, that's a great question. Now for your second question is, most of the caucuses, of all the caucuses, they have bylaws, and and we have to there's a lot of members who read the bylaws, but sometimes it's an everyday thing. We all have chores, we all have families, we all have responsibilities. So yeah, it's a little difficult to get about 40 or 50 members in one call. So, it takes, I say it takes dedication, and it takes love what you're doing. And hopefully, we can get some of those people to join the caucus and give that dedication. Over.
Barbara or Dawn, did you guys want to specifically answer the struggles of, because you're both representing caucuses in formation, you guys want to talk a bit about the struggle of reaching 100 members, either one of you?
Sure, maybe Dawn should go first. I talked a lot.
Okay, Dawn?
I would love for us to try to find a time that we can get together and have a meeting outside of the A&M to work towards this. There is definitely a lot of people that are interested in the Disability Caucus. It's just been a matter of getting through the accreditation process. I don't know that much about trying to get more people to meetings, because unfortunately we have the same problem with a lot of the caucuses I'm involved in, trying to get people to every month the meetings. We have busy lives, and it's difficult trying to make it so that we correspond with being able to be on a Zoom call even. We just have to try to make time in our schedule and make it a priority. Over.
Barbara, did you want to add to that? Or?
Yeah, I would. And, good points Dawn raised. So I would add to that, one way of handling that issue could be to make, a Monday night group for your caucus, or a Monday night group for the inter-caucus meetings, and to have like a Tuesday morning group as well. In other words, to frame meetings around when certain groups of people can meet. So at least you have a quorum going, and those groups share the information with each other, so that's just a pragmatic suggestion. But I think these are things that need to be hashed out, certainly within each caucus, and working with diversity committee, and if need be, national steering committee, to find a mechanism. But I do think it's a bit of a weakness to make it be so that you have to have 100 members and from 15 states before you're, official. That seems like maybe a large ask. And, you know, I know the People's Party is doing similar things, and they're not putting these demands of so many members to get something started. You know, they start with a core, and they go, and they cores are in different places. So, you know, a certain type of umbrella group may have membership here and there and elsewhere, and then they coordinate the web. And I think that's a good idea. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. And I just want to make a brief comment. I'm not going to take too long because I know we have like 8 people in line. But one idea that we circulated around about 5 years ago, but it never really developed, was having provisional caucus status, where the Green Party would recognize a caucus in formation pretty much. And I think the requirements would have been lowered to like 25 members across like 5 states. And that would just really help with like the advertising, because they'd have, I think, 1 national committee rep, and they'd be able to have like a website on the Green Party website, and you know, that sort of thing. So that was just an idea, but you know, something that could be rejuvenated if we want to get things rolling. But let me just go to the next person, which was Charisse. Go ahead.
Hi. First of all, I just would like to thank everyone who's working on this. It gives me a lot of hope to hear all of the voices of people who are working on diversity and inclusion. And I really like the idea of some sort of provisional status for forming caucuses, because the Indigenous Caucus that I privately messaged you about, it has been having some issues trying to get formed, so that would help a lot. I just wanted to say to all of you, especially Cynthia and everyone, that I appreciate the work you've been doing, and to remind people that, you hear my dog howling. Also to say that these issues are not something that just occurred in the modern world. And there are many cultures that completely accept trans people and have for thousands of years. My children kind of get tired when they have to go up and people are saying this is a religious problem or a cultural problem, when their religion and their culture didn't have any problem with it. And so they're just, what I'm trying to say is that I have a child who is non-binary and Native, and it's really great to know that they won't have to, when they have to worry about what's going on in the settler culture, and they have to worry about what is happening in the modern day when they wouldn't have had to worry about it 1,000 years ago. It's nice to know that they won't have to worry about it in the Green Party because of the work that you're doing now. So I would just like to say, Kakinash, thank you very much for all the work that you're doing on diversity and inclusion. Over.
Awesome. Thank you, Charisse. Jackie, go ahead. Unmute yourself, Jackie.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to say a few things around the Elders Caucus that Deanna and I, when we discussed building the caucus, it was because we felt that there was a division that was starting to happen within the party of the young people coming in and the people that had been here, and using age as sort of a divider, which really was not a positive thing in this party because it had never been that way before. And we also wanted to make a safe place for the elders, and a place where they could write position papers on all of the work that they've been doing. I know that when Chanel made their comment about the process of the boomers to do with the oil and whatever, that they were not referring to necessarily the people that are here in the Green Party. But I also wanted to bring forth that many of us that are here in the Green Party and the Elders Caucus, we're doing exactly what you're doing right now, and fighting so hard against all of these wrongs. And we made so many strides forward And it's just been so disheartening to watch them all be taken away again. So there is a frustration level at this point. But I would really love to see all the caucuses get together. I think that there's a lot of misunderstandings because unfortunately our national discussion list seems to cater more to those people that want to keep us at each other's throats than actually discussing and working together. And I think it's very important moving forward that we do try to work together and across caucuses to make these things happen. And I also just wanted to add to what Holly said about the Women's Caucus being in touch with the International Women's Caucus. And I think this is the one thing that this party really has not really delved into, is the fact that we are the only party that has this connection around the world. And it is very, very important. And I think all of these different groups, different caucuses, can reach out to caucuses at an international level as well. So I just wanted to put those things forward and thank everybody that spoke before me.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Chanel, back to you. Chanel, you're on mute.
Yeah. Hi. Okay. So a couple of things. The Youth Caucus has advisors that are voted on by our steering committee. So when people that are over the age for the Youth Caucus want to come help us with something long term, they can send us an email and we can have that happen. And we've done it multiple times. Cynthia is actually one of our advisors. Furthermore, with regard to the concept of regional working together in terms of green parties, that is a great idea. I think that if people want to regionally build stuff with regard to the environment, specifically to Chuck Bell's earlier question, please get over to the freaking Eco Action Committee or Peace Action, depending on what you're doing. Get over to Eco Action and have actually dialogue with your states about these things. What I'd love to do, what we're trying to organize over there in the Youth Caucus, is some work around the Cops Off Campus movement, and also like coordinated work around the banning of conversion therapy, because in Kentucky, the youth greens over there successfully did the work with other groups, obviously, to get it banned in 3 of the states and 3 of the cities in Kentucky. And that's the sort of stuff I want to do throughout every caucus if I can. But one of the issues seems to be that the party isn't communicating effectively across states to know when there are these big ticket issues that a whole region, say Washington, California, Oregon, et cetera, can work on together as a team. That's the way that we've tried to organize things within the Youth Caucus allows for that sort of thing to happen if the communication aspect is there. So I know that that's something we could definitely work on as a whole, and we'd all have fun working on that because there are different tactics that you use across the generations, across the different cultures that will help this sort of work happen in an effective and meaningful way, because Greens at our core are activists. We're activists who also like electoral politics, but we're activists first. And when Greens be like, you have to choose between your activism and your electoral politics, we have an issue, because the Youth Caucus will always say activism first, because it's how we save each other's lives. So, I mean, if we could get that conversation started somewhere, that'd be great. Also, with the whole stuff of people not being able to make meetings, that's why the Youth Caucus has its own forum. That's why, kind of why listservs exist. We have a thread system in what we use. So there's different threads for different topics, and people can speak on something if they want to. If they choose to not say something, they have no opinion, but that's not our fault. People do that sometimes. Over.
Awesome stuff, Chanel. Thank you for sharing those ideas. And I mean, that's why we're having this conversation here, to share these ideas across the caucuses in terms of intersectionality, but also in terms of learning how to organize. All right, so I have Gil, Deborah, Camila, Randy, Robin, and Holly, and we have about 25 minutes left. So if folks can keep things to 2 to 3 minutes, that'd be cool. Gil, go ahead. You're muted, Gil.
sorry, I wanted to self-identify as one of the co-chairs of the Diversity Committee. So I want to first direct response to some of the things that have been said. Diversity Committee would welcome, helping facilitate communication between the caucuses and a working group. But we also don't want to limit the direct conversation between the caucuses. So just, you shouldn't feel like you need to come to us to talk to each other. But that said, we would absolutely love to facilitate a working group to facilitate that process. As far as the other suggestions, in particular, the provisional status, we'll definitely carry that forward at the next meeting. At least my vision of the caucuses themselves, absolutely, first and foremost, they provide a voice for marginalized and disenfranchised people. But as colonized, disenfranchised, and marginalized peoples, you are all subject to gentrification, redlining, and what's it called? I forget the word right now, but where they draw the districts.
Gerrymandering.
Gerrymandering. Thank you. So one of the other, in my view, at least one of the other purposes of the caucus is to overcome those processes. And so I think that's another function of the caucuses, even aside just from granting voice to the voiceless or the at least underrepresented. So I think the regional organizing ideas are also good. I think I was really excited to hear that the Youth Caucus is doing dues, because one of my opinions is that all the caucuses should really seek to have their own budget, and not just from the membership. I think there's money to be had from people who would support those communities within the social movement and the political party that is the Green Party, that would not necessarily want to give money to a state party or the national party. Also, I don't think it facilitates caucus power to have to go to the national committee for every budgetary request. So I would encourage all the caucuses to think about those possibilities. That's it, I think.
Manny, direct response?
Go ahead, Manny.
Thank you, Gil. That is just exactly. I think we discussed that one time with Don and Anita. But if this requires for us to change the bylaws of the diversity committee for this, for the sorry, I cannot get the word, the caucus coalition. I would love for the caucus coalition to be formed and to have one member of each caucus engaged. Like I think Hillary, she came with the idea that maybe we should meet like on Monday, on Tuesday, and then after that meeting, one of the leaders we choose a leader of the, even we have all the leaders of the caucus, we choose like a spokesperson, and they can come to, or I can be a member, or one of the spokesperson that come to the diversity committee and tell them what is that we have discussed and what is needed. Over.
Can I just direct response?
There you go.
Yeah, so I don't think we would need to change our bylaws. We already have provision to form working committees. We could choose to change our bylaws to formalize this particular working committee. And as you know, we're reviewing the bylaws now. And I also just want to add, any of the groups, whether it's an existing caucus or a forming caucus that's having any issues, whether it's meeting the requirements or anything else, that's what the diversity committee is here for. We're here to serve the caucuses. We're here to help you with whatever you need. Some of the caucuses have existed for decades now, and so you haven't come to us recently for help because you did only at the beginning. But you should always feel like we're a resource for the caucuses solving their problems, whatever it is.
Thank you so much, Gil, and thank you for identifying as co-chair of the diversity committee. So anybody who's on this call that doesn't qualify for a caucus or doesn't want to join a caucus, but you want to support the caucuses, that's where you go. Reach out to Gil Obler, the gentleman from New York. Next, we have Deborah Souza Oliveira. Go ahead. Deborah, you there? You're on mute.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. I have a question for everyone. So there is a Young Eco-Socialist Green Caucus. So the requirements yet to be within the age up until the age of 35. And now there are other caucuses, but like people who are interested in that realm of the eco-socialist, where do they go if they're over the age of 35?
Oh, well, just for clarification's sake, we put out information and things on our Facebook page in regards to that, and there's eco-socialist specific organizing happening in this party outside of the Youth Caucus. That's just our name. We elected to change our name in 2017, and that's the name we chose because our website is yesgp.org and branding, among other things.
So if you're over the age of 35, can you be a part of the Young Eco-Socialist Green Caucus?
If you're over the age of 35, you cannot be a part of this caucus because it's specifically for Greens between the ages of 13 and 35. That's an age-based caucus, but you can organize throughout other places in the party, and we have like we're having more public meetings about discussing things like this. So there are definitely ways to organize and interact with us for sure. And you can find me later and we can talk about it. I'll put my email in the chat.
Okay, and is there an environmental caucus?
Caucuses in the Green Party are based around marginalized identities in politics or the environmental movement as a whole. Younger people are kind of disenfranchised in most environmental circles because of our ages, but that would be the Eco Action Committee or the Peace Action Committee or about 3 other committees and working groups that we have inside this national party.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the question, Deborah. Just to, and I think Chanel did a good job of answering, but just because I saw this pop up in the chat as well, just so everyone knows, caucuses are formed based on identities of historically marginalized groups. So not political opinions, not that sort of thing, but just to add to what Chanel said regarding Deborah, I've actually gone to the Yes Caucus Facebook page, and they're always having like webinars and stuff like that, and they even asked me to participate in one in the past. So there's definitely ways to get involved. Just follow them on Facebook and social media. And
Direct reply.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Yeah, and David Cobb has been holding webinars for quite a while around eco-socialism. So I would contact David Cobb too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jackie. All right, Camila, you're next.
Hello, everyone. I want to kind of begin by saying, like, I'll put my communications in the chat because I'm someone that comes from a background. Well, first of all, I'm new to the Green Party organizationally. I had a dim exit in November of 2020, so I had re-registered to become a Green, and so yeah, like I'm very like new to like the organizational side, but I have a background in being like in something like this, like MPP was brought up. I saw Craig Cayetano is here, and I actually did an interview about him with him about my experiences in MPP, which were not, for lack of better words, good. So please do not admire MPP whatsoever for anything. Let me start there. So if you want any like further details about what I'm talking about, like don't hesitate to contact me. Secondly, I wanted to say that, yeah, it's unfortunate to hear about what's going on with the Georgia Greens because Georgia for those who are probably like political junkies like myself, understand that Georgia has been an all-important state, especially within the past, couple of election cycles. They had the runoff to, decide the Senate. They also were one of the central states that the Democrats needed to win the presidency. So to hear that the Greens are actually kind of, for lack of better words, like problematic at this point, as far as not only their internal implicit biases and all these different things, it's kind of disheartening. And yeah, that definitely needs to be addressed very much. And then I had like a couple questions. The first one is basically with both the Black Caucus and the Eco Socialist Caucus. Like, do you guys have strategies for HBCUs? Because one thing, I went to a HBCU coming out of high school, and one thing that I never saw on my campus was anybody from an independent party, Greens, worker families, whatever. They never came on my campus to talk to us about independent politics. And I think there's a, for lack of better words, like a huge vacuum when it comes to that voter literacy and education about independent politics overall. And there are just certain areas, like especially when we're talking about intersectionality. I mean, I'm a Black woman, and I can even go further on, but I don't want to, take up so much. To where our environments don't even have anybody green coming into them, for example, just to make it bluntly. And so I was just wondering about strategies, for environments like HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities, for those who don't know what the acronym means. And then my last question is about, just for the entire panel, about community group collaborations, like grassroots group collaborations with the Green Party. I think I haven't heard much over the weekend about that kind of organic tie between the Green Party and, like, say, Women's March, or NAACP, or some of these other organizations that are more well known in the communities than the Green Party. So I just wanted to know if there was any strategies in any of your caucuses to do any kind of collaborations like that.
Can I direct respond to the first one and the second one super quick?
Hey, Manny, can
Yeah,
you
I was
the last
actually
one?
going to say that since you're in the Black Caucus and the Yes Caucus, you're perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, with regard to campus organization specifically, one of the reasons that the Young Eco-Socialists, aka the Young Greens, have dues is because we want to be able to provide materials to new campuses so that when people are setting up campus chapters, we can give them like boxes of, merch and pins and bylaws books and things of that nature, so that when they have presence on campuses, they can actually have something to show. I will concern, like what people have said before, that it is very difficult for us to get on campuses because oftentimes you can only get on campuses like with approval of the administrator of that school, or if you have an advisor. That's part of the reason that I've made most of my time in this caucus focused around organizing the information so we can always find an advisor at a given campus so that we can make those connections to the HBCUs. I know Greens are involved heavily in the grassroots areas of all over the country, but Greens, because they think that we're there to promote a party instead of work with the grassroots effort, they have a tendency to dismiss our presence there in some activist groups. The Women's March in particular, while some of us have had major success in organizing with the Women's March, like Ray Stone Glover, who's now a national co-chair, most of us encounter this thing where if an organization is primarily run by Democrats or Democrat associated like PACs, they don't want us anywhere near that. In fact, they'll do anything in their power to take away the ability of us to gain attention in terms of media from that. Not that Greens do anything for media. I can talk to you later about all the things that we've been able to do that we happen to not get credit for because we're Greens, but that's a later conversation. So I mean, one of the things that the Youth Caucus does, and the Black Caucus does too, is organize around issues to let it be known that we out here, but it's kind of hard because you have to deal with a lot of being kicked out and kind of being blocked out of even being acknowledged, if that makes sense. Over.
Thanks, Janelle. Felina, did you have your hand up to answer this question, or did you have something different to say?
Yeah, I'm just answering in the chat. It's been a problem. We literally get pushed out. I can just tell you recently with the Sunrise Movement, the Black Lives Matter protests that we organized and attended here in Ohio for the first presidential debate in Cleveland. And they tried to stop us from even joining their march. And I guess they wanted me to calm down because, and how he saw the whole thing, you can ask him. But I went off because they were trying to say that they didn't need us there, spoilers. And I'm like, this is a presidential candidate that is not allowed in the debate, and we're protesting not being allowed in that room. And you're telling us we shouldn't be out here protesting with you too. It was crazy. So yeah, this is going to be an issue that Black Greens are going to get used to very quickly. So yeah.
All right, thanks, Felina. So we got about 10 minutes, and we have
Manny has just want to answer one question.
Go ahead, Manny.
Yes, thanks. To the caller that asked the last question about joining other agencies. Well, that's why we have chapters. You know, I'm on the GFP chapter of the Pioneer Valley, and we deal with and we actually have relations with Arise for Social Justice and the Resistance Center, and you know, no more deportations, Pioneer Valley Worker Center. So basically, it's better to do it on as a chapter, and that way, when you got something that's big, then you can bring it to the Green Party. So yes, it's you know, like with the NCAA, and you know, those are major organizations. But if you live, like I think you say you live in Texas, Ohio, if you live in any of those, you know, there's got to be local organizations that you can, you know, talk to them, and you can you know, Facebook with them, or you can email them and get involved, because that's how we get involved. I mean, right now we're getting involved with Cuba and you know, and what's going on, you know, the boycott with Venezuela. We're involved with anything that has to do with local people who are losing their homes, indigenous people, and restitutions. So if you go to your local chapter, you will get involved more. Over.
All right, thanks, Manny. I'm going to ask Kristen a quick question. Kristen, I know we're on break after this, so you don't really need the room at 2:30. We could go a little bit over, right?
Yeah, I'm going to stop the recording at 2:30, but if people want to hang out and just continue to chat, I think that's fine. I can leave the room open.
Okay, cool. Just so that I don't have to rush Randy, Robin, Holly, and Craig. All right, so go ahead, Randy.
So my question is, what happens to the Disability Caucus? That's my question. I'll ask that, and I'll stop right there, because I remember the Disability Caucus used to be really strong back in the 80s and the 90s and even the 2000s. But now I hardly hear from the Disability Caucus at all. I don't see them on the Facebook page anymore. I don't know who's the president of the Disability Caucus. Personally, if I had my way about it, I'd restart the Disability Caucus, because the Democrats and the Republicans have introduced legislation to take away rights of disability people, whether it be through what they call notification notices on businesses when they can be accessible, or finding a way to take down Title II of the ADA. So that's what I was concerned about. I kept listening to all these great caucuses, but I don't hear from the Disability Caucus anymore. And I just want to know if anybody wanted to tell me what happened to them, who's running them.
As far as I know, we never had a disability caucus. There's one forming, but I'm gonna let Dawn answer that. Dawn, are you still on the call?
I'm right here. We would love to have your help, Randy, to get the Disability Caucus accredited. What I seems to be is that the bylaws were the main challenge for us to be accredited. Those have been worked on, and we hope to be getting everything set with that. But we really desperately need some volunteers to step up for those officer positions.
I
And
will.
yes,
I'll step up. I'll send you my email. I'll put my email in the chat. I'll step up. We need the Disability Caucus because the Republicans and the Democrats have both introduced legislation that would take down Title II. In fact, they came very close to doing it. Luckily, it got caught up in a conference committee, and a whole bunch of other things decided to happen. But yeah, let me put my email in the chat, and let me you guys contact me. We'll get this started.
that would be wonderful.
That's what we're here for. Great stuff. Okay. So moving on, Robin Harris, go ahead.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, I'm trying to make this quick. I don't know if it's a question or just a comment. But I'm in Florida, of course, the South. And the South has its own flavor of all kinds of political BS. And I had wanted to, because I didn't know what the status was, but now I do know, and I'm very excited about the Indigenous Caucus. And with that being said, it seems like most of its members may be northeast or west. I'm not sure. So I'm not necessarily trying to recreate. However, I did want to, some of our southern states, because of old time Southern strategy and all that, they don't have ballot access, just all these issues. And I had thought about some kind of coming together that we could do, whether it's a caucus committee or something, African indigenous people, colonized people, so that we can build power in that manner, because it's historical. However, even in that historical oppression, we've had so many wins, such as the Gullah Wars. And I know it may sound kind of nostalgic, but I think that it would be great if we could pull together some of that power and come together. So that's just a thought that I've had for a while, just not knowing how to move forward with it. Thank you.
Oh, awesome, Robin. That's a great idea. I mean, it sucks that we only have like 2 minutes left, but I mean, that's definitely something we should consider. I have Holly next over here, and then Craig. Go ahead, Holly.
Try to be fast. Just wanted to mention, people have been asking about caucuses, and I think we were clear that these caucuses are identity caucuses, not issue-based or ideology or anything else. There are a couple committees, GPACs, Echo Action, there's an animal rights committee, and nothing prevents people from getting together and forming a Facebook page. We had Pagan Greens at one point. We had the Fellowship of Green Believers, which was a Christian and actually a Muslim group at one point. They kind of run their course, but that's possible. And there was also an option for networking. That's more for like office holders and people maybe in a particular profession. I also wanted to mention, I'm not currently an officer of the Women's Caucus, but I have been for off and on for some time. And over time, that caucus in particular waxed and waned in terms of activity. At one point nearly stopped. There was not very much interest. People were busy with stuff. And I ran for co-chair, broke the rules to run an extra time, saying, well, I'll just stick in there in case we get some interest. Well, we did. And we got quite a bit of interest and several people wanting to take on roles. It makes sense to keep your infrastructure in place. If you go through a time where there's just a dry period, keep that infrastructure there, even if it's just a couple people, and be ready to welcome the new people who may show up. Over.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Holly. Thank you so much. Craig Caetano, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I just pulled over so I can speak. So, Camille, it's good to see you here. And don't be discouraged by the few people that might be in Georgia or transphobic. There's many more voices that outnumber them, and we're doing the right thing by standing up and making sure that we hold them accountable. Getting back to this discussion, this is great. What we need to do is we need to leverage our social media. So I'm thinking that the diversity committee needs to have, like EcoActions had, GPACs has had great Facebook live events where we can have all the caucuses on, give like a 5-10 minute pitch to the public, and basically also the people that are working behind the scenes to try to get other caucuses formally ratified, also get their 5-10 minute pitch so we can draw up to the party. The way I've always looked at the caucuses in New Jersey is kind of like an extension or a branch towards the state party. So I'm hoping that we can use the caucuses to draw people in on obviously certain ideals and issues that matter to them most. And then from them, they'll totally get involved with their local party. But I think it'd be a great way to build attention to the party by using our social media and try to do some outreach there. I'm also in the corner of the Green Party and Steering Committee paying and giving base camp to everyone. I mean, I think at this point, we've proven that the Yes Caucus, Howie Hawkins' campaign has used base camp, other groups have used base camp. I think if National can pony up and pay for base camp and allow each caucus, each committee to have their own access and add the members they want, it would be great. It would be a great way to try to work this out and try to have better way of communication amongst us all. Over.
Great ideas, Craig. Yeah, no, I've heard nothing but great things about Basecamp as well. Did somebody want to respond to that?
Yeah, need to. Because here's the thing. Okay, one of the things I did as accreditation outreach committee co-chair with the approval of the rest of the steering committee is we actually created a process for states and committees or whatever to help us pay for Basecamp ourselves by renting space from us. So it cost us less. And I wrote a whole little proposal committee for how to do that. There's a process, it's written down, nice, neat somewhere. I don't know if I need to send it back to the NatCom so you can see it or not. But we have a process for that. If we could get like 10 states to buy in at 115, that would cover all of Basecamp for the entirety of the party. So the National wouldn't have to pay a whole separate $1,000 since we're already paying for it. We have some states that already rent Basecamp space from us. I've done the math. I'll pop that stuff somewhere so you can see it again, if that's something y'all want to be aware of. Related note, I'm seeing some stuff in the chat about ideologies again. I once again want to point out, Young Eco-Socialist is our name. It does not mean that everyone in the caucus is a socialist. Yeah, we don't like capitalism, but who does? It's oppressive. But the entirety of our caucus is not one ideology. We're just all younger people. I see some nonsense in this chat about discriminating against older people. That's not true. If you look at the demographics of this party, you can understand why there's a space for people between the ages of 13 and 35 in this party that's specifically for them. I don't understand how that's an issue anytime it's us, but for anyone else, nobody got a problem. I'm gonna let it go because, you know, we all fam here anyway. And I know that we're gonna be working together, do some amazing stuff. So I'm gonna not let it get to me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chanel. So just real quick, make sure you send me that document because I don't want to take up time talking to you about it over here, but I'm definitely super interested in it personally. The other thing is I didn't see that chatter because I'm really bad at multitasking, like I said, but our platform flank 835, it discussed basically the details of the economics that we want to support. And it said, you know, there are different names for this. One of them is eco-socialism. The Yes Caucus used to be called the Youth Caucus, and they chose that they want to identify with that particular name, and so that's the history behind it. It's not that it was created as an ideology; it's completely identity-based, based on age. Okay, so I saw Barbara. I guess I can multitask a little bit. I saw Barbara raise their hand for Oscar, so I'm going to go ahead and call on Oscar. Go ahead.
Hi there. I am speaking to you as a convinced Green Party idealist, I guess, but also as a former reporter who over the last decade and a half has been around reporting on social movements and nature, you know, disasters and stuff. I'm from South America and I made my way all the way here. So I kind of been around the continent and I've seen this. So all I want to say is that we shouldn't lose perspective of what the Green Party should and maybe means, which is save Earth, I guess, is the most basic cry. And why do I say this? Because we got to remember that maybe locally dynamics work in a certain way, but that changes when you go to a different country. There are administrations in the South that all the same kick out local communities and take the mining contracts and destroy the earth, and displace people, and then they cover up and kill people and do bad things just the same, because it's not about left or right. It's like, oh, only one, it's not. It's this where we are right now is a two-leg thing. It's two legs that work in a certain way and created a machine, It used to be our support systems, but they grew and merged, and now it's a big machine. It's a big, big machine that it works in a certain way, is wired in a certain way, and it works every day like this. While we're sleeping and talking here, it's working right now as we speak right now, and it's wired in a certain way with our survival. So when we go out there and try to make a living and pay the bills, we're pushing the machine forward. Even us, we are, Green Party people convinced. So we gotta take a step back sometimes and really figure out what does that entail. Because the machine works with governments from the left and the right, I'm sorry to say. And once they get over there in power and down south, they get the visit from the machine and say, hey, take the money or take the bullet. And they have families too and stuff. So we have to really take perspective. What are we here facing right here? We have the machine, which counts on our survival to keep rolling. That's working in a way that it shouldn't, and it's killing our host, our little spaceship that goes around following that star, right? In the ocean of silence, by the way. So we're basically gonna kill our planet to survive, and we can't do anything about it. We can't step out of it. We should. I mean, there's solutions, of course. But all of those solutions require of us in a massive, massive, massive way. I've been, like I was saying in the beginning, I've been around the continent. I reported Occupy Day One, Black Lives Matter from the beginning. Latino movement here. In South America, the people who's been displaced from this machine and stuff. And when I've seen, and I've gone to report, I've seen with my own eyes in the streets, the demonstrations to support that and to try to do something about it, you see a lot of people, but when you take a step back, you realize that is but a tiniest fraction of what there should be. There should be millions out there. So last thing I'm gonna say, and thanks for your time, is that we got to remember that we have to be as inclusive as we can, because down to the bottom ground, what we are working is something that's going to kill everyone, first of all, but it also that works with everybody's help, so we should reach across every aisle and locally and out there. And when we do that, we, in my opinion, shouldn't talk about ideologies or other kind of stuff. We just bear it down to the bare minimum again, where I began with, which is save Earth. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Oscar. So we're about 10 minutes over. We only have two people left, which is Dee and Starlene. So I'm gonna stop taking stack. If you guys can just be brief so that we could take our break, because we got to be back at 3:30. Go ahead, Dee. You're on mute, Dee Murphy.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I had my hand up from way back, and I didn't realize that yeah, it was from way back when Camila asked the question, but I just put in chat that we can discuss outreach to the campuses and the National Black Caucus meeting on Monday, which I understand she's got me information for. I know that just for everyone there, I have done outreach on the campuses. I've held events on my local campus when I was a graduate student at St. Cloud State University, which is central Minnesota. And we held a room every week where we invited people to attend. There's listservs there for different organizations for students that want to join. And so we made sure we were at the top of that list. We recruited a number of people, started a Facebook group. I had about 21 people in the group. And then the national group of youth reached down, a representative, or I guess a person who is now co-chair, and demanded access to the people that we were forming a group with.
We have a process.
Yeah, so anyway, to make a long story short, we'll discuss that in our meeting. Thank you, over.
Awesome, thank you, Dee. And last but not least, Darlene, thank you for your patience. Send us off with a bang, go ahead.
No problem, thank you, Ahmed. Thank you for this workshop, I really appreciate it. Everyone who's spoken, it's been wonderful. I just wanted to clarify some things about the Disability Caucus, forming Disability Caucus. We did get founded a long time ago, like in 2005, but didn't have leadership, so kind of floundered for a while, but we did apply for accreditation, and exactly like 2 years ago, summer of 2019, and the AC sent our bylaws back to us, said they needed some more work, and we weren't able to, we lost our leaders again, and then we finally got some help from a member in the Diversity Committee, and she helped us work on our bylaws. And then it's, then it came time that we need to elect leadership, and that's where things have stalled. I personally am willing to help be a leader, but I'm not willing to do it by myself. And I put that out there, but no one's come forward to help me with it. So I guess I'm sort of pleading again, like I have done many times for the Diversity Committee, to please once again help us, maybe in I don't know, either the process of getting the leadership or whatever they could do to help us get to the point where we can get accredited. The thing about the Disability Caucus is that we all have disabilities, and sometimes those disabilities can inhibit our ability to be leaders. So that comes into play quite a bit, but just wanted to clarify those things. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Starlene. Thank you, everybody, for attending. I just want to reiterate, this workshop was Anita's baby. I'm sure she wishes she was here. I hope I was able to turn it into something that she had envisioned, but let's all keep her in our prayers and hope for the best. Thank you for coming. I believe our next session is going to be at 3:30, so go get your lunch on, and I'll see you guys there.